So hi everyone, my name is Caroline Helson. I am the Director of Marketing and Alumni Engagement at NAF. I've actually been at NAF for 6 years now, and since you are at the Tips for College webinar, I will share that I attended the University of Miami in Coral Gables, Florida. I graduated in 2013, so not too long ago, and I majored in political science. But now, obviously, I work in marketing and for a nonprofit. So I think it was a little bit different, but I learned a lot in college that helped me prepare for where I am today. And I still remember, like, really vividly remember the application process my senior year of high school. So it's just such an exciting time, and we're really happy to be here with you today and share a little bit about our tips for applying to college and also tips for attending and getting the most out of your experience. With us today, you see their names on the slide, but we have Shatiek Gatlin, NAF alumnus from Nielsen, joining us today. He graduated from Babson College, and he'll share more of his story. And then we also have Adjo Evonlah from Montgomery College. She is currently attending college right now, which is exciting to have that more close experience to what's going on right now. So without further ado, I just want to share a little bit about what we're going to talk about over the next 40-ish 45 minutes. We'll do the introductions for our two presenters, our two speakers today, who are NAF Academy alumni, of course, in the spirit of Alumni Month. And then, for those of you on the call, if you just want to drop in the chat, like what city, state you're calling from, or anything about college that you have questions on. Like, I'm really worried about my college essay, or I'm already in college and I'm having a hard time figuring out what clubs I want to join. Feel free to do that in the chat. And then we're going to talk about college application experience and tips. So what you're currently thinking about in terms of the application and how we can help with that. And then Shatiek will go over how to make the most of your experience overall, especially from the lens of like, okay, now I'm in my career and what did I do in college to help me get to where I am right now. And then college during COVID-19, right? I think it certainly hasn't ended. So in spring of 2021, we'll still be, navigating what that college experience is like. And in fall of 2021, I think, hoping for the best for everyone across the country, but certainly would like to share a little bit about that experience so we can give you some tips there. And then lastly, we'll just wrap up with some last pieces of advice and then some next steps or recommendations for y'all to take and then stay connected to the network. So first we will have Adjo, just introduce yourself, just very generally, anything about your NAF Academy experience you want to share, and then we'll have Shatiek go.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. If you're wondering about college and how to go about the application process, you're in the right place. So my name is Adjo Evonlah. I'm a freshman at my local community college, majoring in business on a scholarship, and I graduated from the Academy of Finance program in my high school, and I'm excited to be here today.
Great. Thanks, Adjo. Good afternoon. Sorry, I'll probably be trying to change the angle just so that way you can see me. My name is Shatiek Gatlin. I am a NAF alum as well I graduated high school in 2012. Born and raised in Queens, New York. I live in New York and Queens right now, but I went to high school in Manhattan. High school back then I was in finance, which was an Academy of Finance partner school. And then I went to Babson College in Wellesley, Massachusetts. So since the topic was college today, I wore my college shirt that says Babson College 2016. That's when I graduated. And I studied business at Babson. So I majored in business administration. And I currently work for Nielsen. Again, you saw that on the slide. Nielsen's a measurement company. We measure consumer behavior around what people watch and what they buy and listen to. So sounds creepy, kind of is, but that's what Nielsen does. But I do corporate finance there. So I'm excited to meet you all and just have a nice conversation about a pretty important topic, which is both applying to and succeeding in college.
Perfect. Thank you both. So now with college application experience and tips, we'll start with Adjo. So if you could just tell us a little bit about what, how did you even start the college application process? What was the first step that you took?
So I am a first generation college student, so it was kind of difficult for me to navigate the process. So if that sounds like you, once again, I believe you're doing the right thing and taking the right steps. So for me, I think the first thing was taking my SAT. I had to take it a few times before I was satisfied with my score, but I definitely say start studying early if you can. Uh, Another thing is once I figured out what I wanted to major in, I was starting to look at schools that had good business programs or good academics related to business or opportunities in business and things like that. And I guess research schools in general. Like you could apply, to several places, but at the end of the day, you're going to one and you want to make sure that one school, you're okay with that being your home for the next 4 years.
Yeah, so definitely thinking about more on the education side of how you're picking schools. So does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So how many did you end up applying to, or was it really hard to narrow down, or was it pretty clear based off of the programs you're interested in?
So I had a bit of criteria on where I wanted to go. I didn't want to go too far. I'm in Germantown, Maryland, so I didn't want to go too far from home. I wanted to major in business. I was looking for money as well. I always said I would go to the school that gave me the most money, and now here. And yeah, the academics as well, as I mentioned. I know some other factors that people consider are sports, social life, certain clubs and activities, the school's diversity, things like that. So those are some of the factors I considered and some of the factors maybe you might want to consider as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I do know, I did want to ask in the group is I think we have all students currently. Is there anyone who's in college? Alicia, I can't remember if you are attending college or currently in high school.
Yeah, I graduated high school this year, so right now I'm in college.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we'll definitely get to both there. What about when you're thinking about putting together your application? Obviously, one of the biggest parts is the essay. What was that process like, right? Having to figure out what to actually write about, and then going through the drafting process. Like, did anybody support you? How did you navigate that process?
I'm not gonna lie, I struggled with that part a lot, but if you stay on top of things, the Common App, I believe, and maybe the Coalition too, but I know definitely the Common App releases their prompts like the summer before that application season starts for. So for instance, it would have opened in maybe like August of this year, and then people start applying in the fall. So once it opens up, you can take a look at the prompts. Most of the time, they keep some of the prompts from the previous year. So there's a good chance if you've seen a prompt that you like in the past, you may be able to use it. And there's always that open one, which is the one I think I ended up using. And yeah, so definitely start on your essay early if you can. One of the biggest tips I've heard is show, not tell. You have a limited word count, so you want to make sure that every word you're putting in your essay counts towards reaching that overall story and what you want the application readers to get from your essay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What was the most exciting part of applying for college?
Getting accepted. Well, that and the scholarships, yes.
Yeah.
My goal is to graduate or finish my undergraduate education without taking out any student loans. So basically my plan is to make someone pay all the way through. And so far I'm halfway there.
Nice. I love that. That's so great to hear. Was it I think finances is on the mind of so many NAF students. I think, or everyone really, but it certainly was at the forefront for me when I was picking schools as well. So what other than scholarships or grants that the school might have automatically given you in your package? Did you have to apply for any scholarships?
So I looked for a lot of outside scholarships. That's also how I did it. Within the state of Maryland, we have this thing called the Higher Education Commission. And if you make an account on there and you fulfill all the requirements, which aren't many, just like having a certain GPA and making sure they have your transcript on file. If they have extra funds, they might just slide you a bit if they have it. I don't know how the criteria works, but yeah, I saw like they randomly put some money in my account. So that was great. It was a scholarship that I didn't have to do too much work for. So we love that. And another tip I have is to get close with your CCIC. That's your College Career Information Counselor. Your school may call it something different. I know some call it the Career Center or the College Information Center. I was best friends with that woman. And that's how I got the scholarship I'm on right now. Sometimes there can only be a certain amount of students nominated for a role or even one for each school. So if you express interest and, you let them get to know you or what you're interested in, maybe what you want to major in, then, maybe they'll think of you.
Awesome. So I want to give you a chance to share any other college application experience or tips that you haven't touched yet. And if there's nothing in your mind at the moment, maybe you could let us know if looking back on the process, if you would have done something differently.
Something I would have done differently is definitely quality over quantity when it comes to the activity section of the application. For my Common App, I did so much in high school. I decided to fill out all 10 slots. And looking back, I think that I don't know for sure, but I think it may have hurt my application just because I said I wanted to do this one thing, which was business. And I had some business experiences on there, but I also had a lot of other experiences that didn't relate. I had put them down because I thought they were impressive. I was like, oh no, they've got to hear about this. But at the end of the day, there are other ways to slide it in. Maybe if you have someone writing a recommendation that knows you did this, that, and the other, they'd probably mention it, or you could slide it into your essay, like when I did this, So I would say nothing wrong with filling up that whole section, but if you're going for something, especially if it's a competitive major or competitive scholarship, make sure to make yourself seem well-rounded in the application and really demonstrate your interest.
Absolutely. I love that. I just dropped some more tips in the chat if anyone on the webinar wants to copy and paste that link. And then I will also, it's from ACT Center for Equity and Learning, College Essays in a Time of COVID and Unrest. So when we post the recording to this video, we'll include that in the YouTube description. But some of the tips here, I think were just really, focused and specific to what's going on right now. So helping students find depth in the current challenges they're facing or their overall life experience so far, and why they're interested in the programs they're applying to. So really going deep into that essay. As you're going deep, you will start to uncover what's really unique about you, and why, like you were saying earlier, the showing, not telling of your life experience and how you might be able to add to a certain campus experience. And then helping students refine their professional experiences. So I think this one's so important, especially for NAF students who have more than the average student actually gotten some professional experience in high school. But even if there's not that, like, even if you didn't have the most amazing internship experience between your junior and senior year, I think that there's still a lot of other professional experiences you could talk about, whether or not it's like your job shadows or mock interviews or any career exploration activities you've done. So those are just a couple quick tips for you all to consider when you're writing that essay. But now we are going to move to the next section, which is how to make the most of your college experience overall. And then we'll have Shatiek chime in there, and feel free to add anything about college applications and tips there if you want.
Yeah, no, I think Adjo did a great job, with everything. And, I think it's I mean, I think everybody, right, should have the goal of, to the best of their ability, trying to graduate school with little to no loans. I mean, it just helps a lot. I mean, a lot of the times it's unavoidable and it's not the worst thing in the world. You know, I kudos to her for having that goal and trying to stick to it. Well, sticking with it at least on this first leg of the journey. But yeah, it's incredibly excited to be talking about you know, success for being in college, and you know, tips that I certainly learned along the way, and then as I reflect back on that experience as a professional. So I mean, I can jump in, Caroline, but certainly don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to be able to answer the questions that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can, you know, kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I was just going to start with like, thinking about the earlier experience in college, freshman year and sophomore year. What was that like for you at Babson? What was on your mind, the most in terms of like a challenge, or what was the most exciting? Just kind of paint a picture for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think to paint a picture, I mean, you know, when I think about it, I mean, it definitely was like fish out of water in many ways, right? You know, I, much like Adjo, share the identity of being a first generation college student, which I think over the last couple of years, I mean, going to college at the time, I didn't know that like I was that. I knew, right? Like I knew that like neither one of my parents had gone to college, so I knew, right, that okay, I'm the first, but I didn't really understand what sort of, you know, what comes with that. And it definitely feels like, you know, you're kind of charting a path that, you know, is kind of dark, not like in a bad way, but like just like you don't really have the insight. And so for me, I think, you know, my first and second year, you know, was really around trying to establish, you know, that support for myself on campus. I was in a unique situation where I did go to college through the program called the Posse program, the Posse Foundation. And so because of that, you know, I was in a unique situation where, you know, I had other students who had gotten a scholarship with me from New York, and I had a mentor. Um, you know, so I felt, you know, kind of supported, and certainly felt supported in that way. But I mean, it doesn't take away from the feelings of still feeling like, okay, you know, this is a new experience. I mean, because going to college in general is a new experience. But if for whatever reason you don't come from a family background who has had generations of individuals go to college, it's just a new journey. And so it was really around, you know, and this is kind of the philosophy I apply with networking, right? Like it really just came down to, you know, who do I need to help me, like help support me, you know, along this journey, almost in the same way of like, you know, when you're a professional, right, and you want to build your network because you want to move up in a company or in an industry, right, you find people who can help you do that. College was no different, right, which was just trying to find trying to establish, you know, relationships of support, or just making sure that I'm seeking out support that's provided on campus. Because every school has all kinds of different resources, and it's just about tapping, oh, excuse me, tapping into those. And so I think when I reflect on my first and second year, was really around just trying to get adjusted, you know, obviously, which is natural, but just, you know, trying to get adjusted to what it means to be college, being on your own, being independent. So, you know, and you know, there were late nights, you know, there were, you know, I mean, I don't think I ever was like crying. I mean, which is fine if people do that, it's okay. But I don't think I had like moments where it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. I definitely enjoyed my experience, but it was very new and different.
Absolutely. You were talking, about the support network, and earlier we were just talking about the career center. Where do you find these people? And like, there might be a little bit of a confidence barrier to
Yeah,
reaching
sure.
folks. How did you deal with that if you experience that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think definitely on it's definitely on you. I mean, but you know, it's also about, it also goes back to what I Joe said about choosing the right college, right? Like, you know, and this comes to like, you know, when you're looking up colleges, you know, if I mean, obviously in COVID, it's hard to do that, but like asking questions, you know, of like finding out, because like part of it, to your point, is a confidence barrier, and it's about personal responsibility and finding those different resources. But another part of it is around going to a school that has things in place, so that way you don't feel like you're, kind of jumping through hoops, to get the kind of support you need. So like, for example, you can, um, you know, um, as an example, one of the things is like finding tutors, right? Like, making sure that schools, and they usually have them on their websites, or they have them, somewhere along the admissions process, right? Like if a school has a lot of support that students can take advantage of, right? They're going to promote that. It's like, for example, Babson had like a lot of different support, right? Like I used to be a tour guide, and so I was familiar with them, but I used to often joke with, not necessarily on a tour, because I wouldn't say this to a potential student, but like I would joke with my friends, it's kind of hard to fail at Babson, right? Because the way the school is set up in terms of support, you have a RAs, what they call them at residential schools, right? Someone who lives in the dorm with you and kind of supports you and the resident, through the other residents. You have a peer mentor, you have, a first year seminar instructor, you have an academic advisor, you have all these different layers of support for different things. And so I think it's really a part of it, right? Is again, part of going to college is, personal responsibility, and, knowing that, you have to own your success, right? And if you're one of those individuals like I was, that recognizes that, okay, I don't have a parent who, works on Wall Street, or knows someone who does, or, I don't have a parent who has a deep network, right? How do I tap into the one that I'm in, or how do I find people, that can help me, right? So again, some of the more common, like one of the things I love about community colleges, there's a couple in New York City, right? They're like, the way they're designed, like they're set up, right, to give you all of the support you need to push you along into your higher education, right? So like, there's a school in New York City, that's like, it's called Guttman Community College. Of course, no one on here, I think, is from New York City, so you're probably not going to go to it. But just as an example, right, like they're almost designed to push you from community college into a 4-year institution to finish your bachelor's after you got your associates. And so I think it's just about being intentional, right? So when you're looking up schools, so this goes back to the applying piece. When you're looking up schools, right, ensuring that schools have good career services, good academic advising services, and again, how you find that out is, one, looking on the website, but also just calling and saying, hi, I'm a potential student. Can you just give me a few facts about your academic advising program or your career advising program? But then when you're also a student, like once you become a student, right? I know that we have one student, I could be a few more, but I know that there's one student who's the first year now, who graduated from high school already. The types of services that you want to look for are, the Career Center. At Babson we call it CCD, right? Center for Career Development. You're at Babson, we had the Office of Academic Services, right? So this is the people you go to when you need help with, choosing classes or declaring a major or figuring out how to navigate the curriculum. There's also financial services, right? Like, again, to the point that Adjo mentioned, she wanted to go to school for free, which is a great thing to do. But if you can't, like if that's not your circumstance, being able to seek out student financial services, or the Office of Financial Services, some schools call them the bursar's office, right? They're the office that blocks you from registering if you don't pay your bill on time, and things like that. Like going to those offices as well, and being able to advocate for yourself. But again, to the point you mentioned, Carla, like it all comes back to a confidence thing. Like, you have to be comfortable, being able to, speak to people on your behalf. And so I definitely encourage, students in terms of being able to succeed. As I mentioned, I was in a posse program. So I came to Babson with a mentor who was a professor, right? So I had someone who could sort of vouch for me on my behalf if I had a question about something, or if I, couldn't, figure something out. And so I think it's important to, of course, know all of those different resources and things like that. But I think it's also important to try to find a professor or a staff member who can sort of be that mentor for you, right? And kind of help get things out of your way if it comes to like trying to get an internship or trying to get into a class. And I think that just comes with time, right? Like obviously you can't ask all of your professors to be a mentor. It has to be someone that, teaches the subject that you like, or someone that, you feel like you can build a relationship with, as an example.
Absolutely. And, you just mentioned internships, and that was actually going to be my next question. When you think about, and my last question, it really is, if you think about like internships or club student organization experiences, what really helped you get ready for your first job out of college? Was it like one internship, one and done, or what were those experiences, and how can the folks on the call get those experiences?
Yeah, so I think absolutely internships, and again, this goes back to the research that you do before you choose a school, but it also goes into like once you're already at that school, finding those resources. I mean, I think internships are definitely it, but also clubs and organizations, being a member of a club, whether it be, Toastmasters, or it's a sports team, or a religious-based organization, or a cultural or identity-based organization. All of those are important, not only because they, are good for giving you experience and being on a team, leading a team, executing projects, or putting on events, but it also kind of helps shape who you are, right? Like it kind of helps shape, who you often become as a professional, right? Like some of the people that, I work with at work, right? Like, you can tell who had a good time in school in terms of, experience, working on a team, and who didn't, right? Because, it shows in the way that they bring themselves to work. And so I think that those are absolutely critical. Like, and again, I think as a cautionary tale for students who are currently in school, or those who, are applying now and will be next fall, you don't have to do everything, right? Like a student who gets an internship because they were involved in 10 different organizations, like, I could say that in reverse. A student who gets an internship having only been involved in 2 organizations can also get an intern, it can get the same internship as someone who is involved in 8 or 10 different organizations. And I say that as someone who was involved in a lot, right? And I had to, sort of through the help of mentors and the support groups, to dial it back a bit. But, quality over quantity, right? Like you can, be involved in 2 or 3 things at your school and do really well in those things, or you can be involved in 10 different things and you're just a member in all of them, right? But you're not really leading anything, and you're not growing your experience in that, in that club or organization or project or whatever. And so that's just something I always tell students. I say it to every student who goes to Babson, because I remember being that student. Going back to the question that was asked earlier around my first and second year, like I wanted to kind of just do everything. Like I was kind of just really happy to be in college, blah, 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 blah. Like I'm going to do everything. And like my first year, I did really well. My first semester, my sophomore year, my GPA tanked, right? Because I was like trying to do everything. And so, just definitely for the students who are currently in school, right? Like quality over quantity. Again, a student who, is involved in 1 or 2 or 3 things can get an internship the same way a student who's involved in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different things, right? Because a lot of times we stack our resume, oftentimes because this is what we were told in high school, right? Get involved in everything so you can fill out, you can fill out the Common App, which is all great, but when you get to college, again, like, you may have been involved in 2 things in high school. Someone may have been involved in 10, and they both get into the same school. So, I think we're taught to like overwhelm ourselves with doing everything, because it makes our resume look better. But, you don't want an overwhelming resume either, right? Because, there's studies and research that should, that says that recruiters sometimes don't even look at resumes for that long. And so they're probably not even gonna look at a resume with 5, 6, 7, 8 clubs on them. So, that's sort of my advice around internships. I mean, as I think about my career, it definitely played a big role of just having, experience, particularly as a young Black first generation college student, right? It's just good to get that experience and exposure. But just as young people in general, regardless of background or race, like you know, as society goes on, right, like things are going to continue to be competitive. And to the extent that you have an internship, or even if it's not a summer long internship, right? Like some schools do externships, right? Where you go to, you visit a company for a week or two over the winter break or spring break or whatever, or you do, like Babson again. I hate to keep preaching Babson because students probably may not want to go there, but they have like a management consulting project where you consult for a company for a semester, right? And the company doesn't have to pay anything, and the students get credit for it, right? And you just consult them, and you make recommendations at the end of the semester. Like all of that counts as good experience, right? So find, like, if you can't get an internship, right, like find other things that can be sort of help you develop skills that can still be applied to, you know, full-time jobs. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. And just a little plug for some support that NAF is currently providing alumni in terms of college internships. We do have an email series called the Career Insider that goes out to NAF alumni who are college aged. Um, so it goes out on the 1st and 15th of every month, and it includes job and internship postings, both from NAF partners and also from ones that we just search ourselves because we know the career industries that NAF students are generally interested in. And then it also includes some scholarship resources, and then some professional development event opportunities, which are of course now a little bit more virtual. But you can feel free to email me, chelson@naf.org, if you're not sure that you're currently signed up for that. We'll make sure as an alum that you are signed up. So that's one resource for you. So I know we have about 10 minutes left. So I really want to get the chance to talk about college during COVID-19. But for the folks on the call, like if you have any questions or want to share any advice from your perspective about the college application process or attending school, if you're currently in school, definitely think about that. And we'd love to hear from you. But for right now, college during COVID. So freshman year, almost done with your first semester. Adjo, how has it been?
It's been pretty interesting so far. This is my first time in college, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But I'm completely online, 100% virtual. And one of the biggest things that I'm struggling with is setting that distinction between work and play. Like, you're home all day, there's nowhere to go. It's not like where you're going to school. So you have that, school mindset, and then you come home and can relax a bit, like, how am I doing classes? And somebody's going to ask me to cook rice, like you have to set that distinction. And so, because I don't have those physical boundaries, I've sort of done it mentally, like just kind of having that self-discipline, like, oh, I have to work right now, I have to get this and this done right now, maybe having a quiet environment. I personally struggle with that, but if you can, it'd be nice, maybe a certain area to work and then a certain area for living, and then you really set that mental distinction that you have to get your work done and prioritize it.
Absolutely. I like how you said that, right? The mental distinction between what you're doing during the day. So we have a question here, especially in the world of finance and entrepreneurship, the cost and value of a college education seems to be a pretty controversial topic. Yeah. Do you have any advice as to how to make my college experience as good of an investment as possible? So while Shatiek and Adjo, you think about that, I think I'll start off. As good of an investment as possible. I think a lot of it is as you're going through the application process. I think step one, like really getting a sense of the supports that are available at that university and how proactive they are in reaching out to students about those experiences, trying to ask those sorts of questions to the admissions officers for sure, but also directly to the people in those departments to get a sense of how they do that. And then once you're in college, I think I wouldn't underestimate the return on investment you get just from the experiences of building your professional skills in student organizations, just in with the student body, right? Just having a really different experience, whether or not you know are living at home and commuting to school, or you're living on the campus. I think there's just so many group dynamics going on that you might not get otherwise. And then in terms of actually landing a job and thinking about the money part of a return on investment, you know, it's the network, right, that a college experience can provide you, whether or not it's the current students you're in college with, the professors, the faculty, the administration, or the alumni network of that college. Just, I think, you know, you can always network with those people and try to land the best opportunity possible. So that's where I would start. But I saw Shatiek, you were nodding. You might have something to add.
Yeah, no, that's, I think I mean, I agree with everything you said, Caroline, but I think it's a profoundly interesting question, Ryan. And it's an important one. And it's, I mean, you know, like it's truly hard to tell, right? Because, you know, I guess not to get all preachy, but like entrepreneurship, right? Like a lot of people will debate and say that entrepreneurship can't be taught. However, right, I think what an education, a formal education provides, let's say at like a Babson or University of Pennsylvania or NYU, like all these big business schools for undergraduates, I think, I mean, it provides you with, and to Caroline's point, like access, right, to information and to people that you would not have otherwise had access to. And so some schools, like for example, like Babson, like they do pitch competitions, like you get like you get the possibility of getting money, or right. So like if you want to if you wanted to be an entrepreneur and start your own business, right? Unless, you know, being truthful, you come from a family, you know, just for anyone on the call, you come from a family whose, you know, parents have friends, you know, with deep pockets who are ready to throw money at you, right? Like, but let's assume you don't come from that, right? Starting here, right? If you want to, like, if you want to start a business, you know, with a education, with a formal education, you're here, right? As opposed to starting with nothing, right? Like it's just like, okay, I have this idea. Whereas when you get an education, right, like you have, information to help perfect your idea, to help, give you the resources to, you know, sort of kickstart that business, right? And so I think, that's my perspective, right? I mean, again, I don't come from a family of education or money or whatever, right? So for me, it was a no-brainer, right? For people who do come from that, right? Like, I mean, I have classmates, right, who I went to Babson with, who was like, you know what, 2 years, this is not worth it, I'm out, right? Because they have the luxury to do that, right? And if you don't have the luxury to do that, then you kind of got to go with, sort of a, I guess I wouldn't say a guarantee, right? Go with something that's a little bit more of a sure thing. Same with like getting a finance education, right? Like, you know, well, you certainly can't work in corporate America without some kind of education, some kind of degree. So, it's kind of a no-brainer. But it does not take away from the fact that college is incredibly expensive, particularly the ones that I just named. And so to the extent that you can, right, definitely try and, look up scholarships and, really work hard to offset whatever the cost of it is going to be. Because again, and I don't want to take time on this call to go through it, but like, I mean, it is a serious question, right? Like, if you want to study business, finance, entrepreneurship, whatever, like, do you need to pay $50,000 a year to do that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm also biased, right? Because I had a scholarship. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's not an answer, but it's, it's kind of just me pontificating, but
it also kind of leads towards another point about college overall, that everything is so individual, and your experiences and what you're looking for and what you're going to do when you're in college it's an exciting opportunity to shape that for you. And ultimately you will know what's best. Like, and when I say you, I mean anyone attending college or applying to college, you'll know what's best for you. So I think there's no one like perfect path. But yeah, I would love to wrap up with any last minute advice from our two speakers about, if, one or two things that you think are just like the biggest, most important things as you think about the college experience.
Well, I'll save the best for last. I'll go first, so Adjo can go last. I mean, I think, don't sell yourself short, would be my advice. And that's both applying, but also when you get to school, just don't sell yourself short. There's so much that there's very little that you can't do. I know that sounds very like preachy and cliche, but there's very little that you can't do. But you don't have to go it alone. Right? You don't have to walk the path alone. Is my biggest advice, and kind of just goes back to the overall theme that I started with, just like finding resources and support to help you succeed. So that's yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. For me, I say apply, apply, apply. Really, applying to things has helped me get where I am today. I definitely experienced the burnout Shatiek described. For me, it was in my senior year of high school, running around trying to experience everything that I had in the previous 3 years. Not that I wasn't involved, but there's just so many things I wanted to like do before I left, and also trying to like impress colleges a bit. But I say definitely put yourself out there, be open to new experiences. And I guess that goes back to your question a bit, Ryan, on how to make the most of your experience. Like put yourself out there. If you're cooped up in your dorm or wherever it is, you're not going to really get that full experience. And time flies. Those 4 years could fly by before you know it. So for me, apply. Like the worst that could happen, you get a no, you move on. There's always going to be a new door and another opportunity.
Yes, I definitely echo that. Thank you both so much. And thank you to our attendees for coming in. I'm going to drop in the chat, like I said again, chelsen@naf.org is where you can contact me, HELSEN. And then you can also follow NAF Career Acads on Instagram. We share just a ton of resources there. And our digital marketing manager, her name is Stephanie. She reads all of the direct messages that get sent to us. So we're very open to hearing about your story and what you need and what other information would be helpful to you. So thank you so much. And we will be in touch. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the night.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care.
Bye.